Hockey Inside Out, presented to you by The Gazette.
Welcome to the Hockey Inside Out Show. Happy New Year to everybody out there. I'm happy to be joined today. Chris Nyland, Jack Todd, and Jessica Resnack from TSN Radio. Chris, 4-2 loss to Tampa Bay at the Bell Center the other night. Reason for concern or just a bad night for the Habs?
Bad night, but not a whole lot of effort either. I didn't see a team that was really trying to avenge the embarrassment that they received when they went down to Tampa Bay at the beginning of the year. And again, this is the team ahead of them that has been ahead of them most of the year, and that's a concern for me. They can't beat the Chicagos, Tampa early in the year. Yeah, they beat Pittsburgh the other night handily, but Anaheim, those teams you have to beat to win the Stanley Cup, they struggle against.
11-3, Tampa Bay's outscored them in the two games this year, and it was a rough night for PK Subban, too.
Well, PK, yeah, brain cramp, that's about the only way I could describe that. I mean, I understand he was trying to back Markov up, and he only gave the guy a tap, but you're sitting in the penalty box, for God's sake. When Claude Lemieux did that, when he gave the sucker punch to Eric Lindros, he at least looked to see if there were any refs looking at him before he punched him. PK didn't look. He just goes like this, dumb penalty, and that started the flood.
I know after the game, Jessica, you had a couple of questions for Coach Michel Therrien, and his answers were pretty short.
He was. You could tell that he was trying to watch what he was going to say. His anger level was probably growing through. And then even with my follow-up question, I asked him, did you say anything to PK Subban about that penalty? And he just said it was undisciplined, and that was about it. But I have to say it was good that PK Subban was in the locker room when the media was let in. He addressed it. He said it was the heat of the moment. If he could have it back, he would. And that's it. It was a bad moment. I think everyone can relate to it. We're all human. We make mistakes. And now we can move on from it, and he'll just learn from it going forward.
But what I found funny was that he was the one who was giving all his long speeches before the game about how they had to keep their concentration. And he was the guy who lost it.
Right. Now, do you think Michel Therrien would have handled the situation a little differently maybe last season before PK's
I'm
contract?
sure he would have benched him last season. I don't get why he didn't in this case. Again, PK had a rough night. There's no question about it. I've taken stupid penalties. I've done crazy things. I understand it. But here's a guy. Here is a guy that wants to be captain of this team one day. And if you're the captain, you can't do that. I understand, I want to stick up for my teammate. But come on, what's that little thing going to... If he swung a stick at the guy, then okay. He just go like that. He pokes him like he's poking shish kebab. Let me get the tomato on it. You hit him. You hit him.
Well, wait till he gets back on the ice,
yeah.
Right? Now, they have 54 points in 40 games, right near the midway point. Jack, do you see this team getting more than 54 points in the second half or less?
I think they'll probably slip a little. That would be my expectation. Finish somewhere between 100 and 110 points, which is still a really good, solid season. A lot of things to be happy with. The power play isn't one of them. A few concerns like that. But, they've won a lot of games and a lot of tough games like the one in Pittsburgh the other night. Tampa to me wasn't totally a surprise because that seems to be always a bad game when you come off a long road trip. That first home game, everybody's busy getting their dry cleaning, sorting out the fights with the girlfriend and all this stuff, and they show up with half a brain,
And that's what Dale Weiss said after the game, too, that for whatever reason, whenever you come back from a long road trip, the game at home is always so difficult, and they just seem to be the same case for them last night.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Now, the power play is 26th in the NHL, 14.2% success. The only teams with worse power play are Colorado, Florida, Edmonton, and Buffalo. What would you do to fix it?
Well, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And they're not getting a different result. They're getting the same result. They don't change the players. They've never put a guy in front of the net, a big body. Look at Dale Weiss's goal last night. In front of the net, he was screening Bishop. Bishop's a big guy. You got to get in front of him. Weiss does. He ends up tipping the puck. It's in the net. They have to change it up. I truly believe they got to have a guy in front of the net, simplify, and try and get that shot, and not always look for PK. Max or Markov, and get that shot and go for tips, screens, and rebounds. That you have to simplify it when you're struggling like this, and I think they overpass it. Last night they pulled a goalie. They got 6 guys on the ice.
It was like 3 minutes left.
Big shot from the point. Nobody's in front. Bishop comes out and just stops it. If you don't have traffic, goaltender can see it. Most NHL goalies going to stop the puck when they see it.
What's been your biggest surprise for the first half of the season with this team, Jack? Is there anything that stands out?
Actually, it's a fairly recent surprise because I'd given up on him for this season, and it kind of went unnoticed there in the holiday period, was that Nathan Beaulieu came in and did a really good job playing with Gonchar, and Gonchar would be the other half of the surprise because when he came here, everybody was saying, the guy's good for 10 or 11 minutes a night. He's doing a solid 17 or 18. He's bringing the kid along. He's been a wonderful pickup for the team.
You're around the team on a daily basis. What's Gonchar like? What's he like to deal with?
Well, just to compare him to, say, Andrei Markov, his fellow countryman, Gonchar is a lot more, I would say, friendly, more, you're able to talk to him a little bit more, whereas Andrei Markov sort of has a very
KGB.
a very serious tone to him. And I think the thing that sums it up the best was after the World Junior game, of course, with Canada and Russia, we asked Nathan Beaulieu if he made any bets with any of the Russian teammates like Gonchar or Markov, and he said, we were too afraid to even ask them. So I think, Gonchar's a little bit more friendly, and I could see for a guy like Nathan Beaulieu, it's probably a lot easier to communicate with him and to ask him questions. Again, I don't know what Andrei Markov is like once those locker room doors are closed, but Gonchar just seems more approachable than Andrei Markov.
You were coaching, I think, in New Jersey when Gonchar was still playing back in like 95, 96.
A good player, never a physical guy, which is a good thing because he doesn't have to play physical, but I think, he's slowed up a bit, and he compensates by using his head. He's smart. He's good with his stick. I think Andrei Markov is probably the best guy in the league as far as poke checking and being able to get his stick in lanes and break up pucks that way. But Gonchar's right there, too. He's good with his stick.
We'll be right back after a short break, and we'll talk more Habs. Welcome back to the Hockey Inside Out Show. Jackie wrote a column this week about the Canadiens not getting a lot of respect from certain people in the NHL.
Well, it's been going on for at least 15, 20 years now, but it seems to get worse and worse as the national media becomes more Toronto-centric. And, with Rogers taking over and the new Hockey Night in Canada format and stuff, we thought it might change some, but they've kept some of the worst Hab bashers there, starting with Ron and Don, Glenn Healy and PJ Stock, all of whom just despise the Habs. But when I'm disappointed is when I hear like Elliot Friedman, who's the best they have and one of the best in the country, he's pushing Carey Price for the Hart Trophy, which is nice, except the reason he's pushing him is because the team is allegedly so bad that the only reason they are where they are is because Price is carrying them on his back. Well, you don't win 5 consecutive games on the road in this league with a hot goalie. It was a good team effort, especially the last couple of games and the one in Pittsburgh, and they got zero credit for it.
The other one who seems to get no respect is Michel Therrien. Look what this guy's done since he came here. Conference, first in the conference, going to the conference final last year.
Yeah, you can't argue with the job he's done here. Some people don't like the moves he makes, blah, blah, blah. But, the results are there. They want a winning team. The fans want a winning team. They're getting it with Michel Therrien. Now, last night I was surprised at the end of the game. 3 minutes left, he pulls the goalie. And then he actually, the first time I've ever seen him do this. I don't know if he wanted to show everybody, I'm not quitting on the team, we can still win this. He brought out the little board and actually tried to show him what to do. And it shocked me that he was doing it. 1, 2, no one was listening.
But I think the thing with Michel Therrien is that people need to live in the present and need to forget Michel Therrien the first time around, and he's changed since then, and he's done some good things since he's been here. So I think until people sort of accept to move on, they're always going to just hate him no matter what he does. Probably they'll win a Stanley Cup and they'll give everyone else credit except for him.
Well, people in Montreal, look when Ottawa fired their coach, Edmonton fired their coach, and Toronto fired their coach. Now, Mike Babcock is the name you keep hearing about coming there. Do you see anything that happening? You know what? He might do it for the money. If he does, he's an idiot because you cannot walk into this situation and do anything. You start with Phil Kessel and the poisonous guys in that room that are locked up until about the 22nd century, and you are screwed. I just don't see any way. Scotty Bowman, God himself, could not go in and coach that team. As long as Phil Kessel is going to say, I'm going to play this game however I want to, and don't ask me about anything because none of this is my fault, you're screwed. You love Phil Kessel, right?
You know, again,
Homeboy.
it's a bit embarrassing for us to see a hockey player like this. Listen, yeah, he can score goals and all that, but he got out of Boston because he was selfish. He whined. He was a rookie. He wasn't playing enough. He whined. He sulked around the room. Gone. See you later. He's up there. They've basically let him do what he wants. He comes to training camp fat and out of shape all the time. You know, he's on his own agenda. The assistant coach this year tries to come in and work with him. He has a confrontation with him. Listen, you're not always going to love your coaches and get along with them, but here's the deal. You have to buy into the team concept and system, and Phil Kessel is me first, team 10th.
Well, calling the journalist asked the question an idiot. How do you think Marc Bergevin might have handled a situation like that if it happened in Montreal, Jessica?
I don't even think a situation like that would happen in Montreal. And something that I really like about Marc Bergevin is since he's come in, there hasn't been this off-ice drama with the team, that there hasn't been any of these kind of distractions. And I think it's not just a coincidence. I think he's spoken with the team and said, you know what, there's enough pressure playing in Montreal. Everyone is scrutinized. Let's leave it with our play and not the way we talk to reporters, not the way we go out and celebrate after games, so there's no more pictures being seen around the internet. So I think that's what Toronto needs. They need someone like Marc Bergevin to come in and say, play hockey and keep all the nonsense to yourself. If you don't like a reporter's question, keep it to yourself. If he kept it to himself, all this, controversy will be done. Same thing after the game when they lost and Phil Kessel told that reporter to get away from me. That caused a whole nother drama, and it becomes a huge headache and a distraction, and it probably, I'm almost sure, affects their play because now everyone is scrutinizing them even more. There's, instead of, 50 reporters at practice, there's now 100 reporters at practice.
The guy was a jerk. Yeah. The guy was a jerk fasting. It's a stupid
Well, that was the thing, too. I don't think he gave the background.
He got the answer that he wanted. He wanted
I don't agree with you. You got to ask these questions.
No, but if he said, Ron Wilson was on TSN 1050 in Toronto, he said this about you, what is your reaction? Rather than saying, I heard you're uncoachable. He didn't give any context to it, and I think Phil Kessel's reaction might have been different if he did get the context.
But Kessel seems to be, no matter what you ask him, he seems to just be...
Brian Burke said, he's shy, he doesn't really like that part. Listen, here's the deal. It's part of the whole package in the NHL. When you play for a hockey team, you have to be available to the media. And, he don't care about how he looks or what he says. I don't know. It's just... He's a prima donna, the kid, and he grow up.
A kid who's handled the spotlight so well here in Montreal, Alex Galchenyuk.
Yeah.
You sold on him at center, Jack?
So far I am. It's really changed the whole dynamic of the team. And part of what changed it is Desharnais playing so well on the wing, which that to me was an unexpected component completely. I thought always, what are you going to do with Desharnais if you make this move? But that part of it's worked out. I think that top line is definitely more dangerous now. All the time they scare you. They're not always getting the points, but even last night in the Tampa when they didn't do much, Galchenyuk always looked like he's either there or right this close to something that is going to happen when he's on the ice.
Yeah. Jessica, were you surprised to see Manny Malhotra made a scratch?
You know what? I wasn't, because you have to do something with that fourth line. I don't think it's been as effective as it was last year, especially in the playoffs when it was that difference factor. It did bring that energy that you needed. And so far, they haven't been able to recapture it or be that spark plug to be a game changer. And they have to do something. Him being a healthy scratch, putting another player in, sometimes little changes like that can be the difference. Of course, then P.A. Parento got hurt, so we never know how much longer Manny Malhotra might have been sitting in the press box for it. But I would have to say that fourth line, that to me is what's missing from this team, that extra spark that they were able to provide.
Pittsburgh Saturday night, did the Habs bounce back?
Well, who knows? Again, no, but really, I'm not good at making predictions. I hate making predictions, but this team has to come and be ready to play. They go down to Pittsburgh, they played a great game down there. Why can't they do that again? Why can't they be firing on all cylinders? Why can't everybody just show up and play? They're back here. They go on the road and win 4 games, 2 back-to-backers. Tough situations to be in. They get all the points, and they come home. I don't care. It's the first game after a long road trip. We got to get dry cleaning. We got to get, deal with all this other stuff. I mean, come on, just go and play. Show up to play. When you don't show up to play, you're not prepared, and they certainly weren't for that team last night.
Should be a good game Saturday night. Looking forward to it. That's it for this week's episode of Hockey Inside Out. We'll see you next week with a new show.